Imagine a country where a rapper, a man who once dropped profanity-laden Facebook posts aimed at India, China, and the United States, is about to be sworn in as Prime Minister. That country is Nepal. And what happened on March 5th, 2026 was not just an election. It was a political earthquake that has sent shockwaves from Kathmandu all the way to New Delhi and Beijing. Let's start with the hard numbers, because they are nothing short of extraordinary. Nepal's parliament, the House of Representatives, has 275 seats. Of those, 165 are directly elected and 110 are filled through proportional representation. The Rastriya Swatantra Party, or the National Independent Party, the RSP, a party that did not even exist 4 years ago, has emerged with a thundering mandate. Here is how the seat share broke down. RSP 103 plus of 165 directly elected seats, leading in 21 plus more. Overall vote share 55%. Expected final tally 135 to 145 seats out of 275. Nepali Congress 17 directly elected seats. Gadan Thapa, the party's newly elected president and PM hopeful, lost his own seat to an RSP candidate. CPN UML, KP Oli's communist, just 7 directly elected seats. The 4-time former PM himself, Khadga Prasad Sharma Oli, was rooted in the Jhapa 5 constituency by Balen Shah personally by a margin of nearly 4-1. Maoist Centre, Prachanda. Prachanda, the old guerrilla commander, managed to hold his seat, but his party's influence has been reduced to a rump. To put this in perspective, RSP's proportional vote share of over 55% puts it in a position to form Nepal's first majority government in over 2 decades, potentially without needing a coalition. Local papers called it what it was. The Himalayan Times ran the headline, RSP set for a landslide victory. Annapurna Post described it as, and I quote, a people's ballot revolt, shift in political paradigm. That framing is exactly right. So who is this man? Who is Balen Shah, better known as Balen? At 35 years old, Balen Shah is set to become Nepal's youngest ever Prime Minister. He is a civil engineering graduate from Kathmandu, holds a postgraduate degree in structural engineering from Visvesvaraya Technological University in Karnataka, yes, India, and is currently pursuing a PhD in traditional infrastructure. Before politics, he was a rapper. His songs were sharp, satirical, raw critiques of Nepal's political establishment. That persona gave him authenticity with a generation of young Nepalis who were done with the old system. In 2022, he became the first independent candidate ever elected as mayor of Kathmandu. His tenure tackled the city's notorious garbage crisis, digitized municipal services, and made him a symbol of governance that actually delivers. When the Gen Z uprising of September 2025 brought Nepal to a standstill, burning parliament, demanding accountability, the youth of Nepal looked to Balen Shah. He joined the RSP and became its prime ministerial face. Then, on election day, he walked into the Jhapa 5 constituency, KP Oli's home turf, and defeated the veteran 4-term Prime Minister by a staggering margin. Oli himself, to his credit, conceded gracefully on X, writing, "Congratulations Balenu Babu. May your 5-year tenure be smooth and successful." Meanwhile, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Nepal's peaceful conduct of elections a quote, proud moment in the country's democratic journey. Note the warm words. New Delhi is watching every move in Kathmandu very, very carefully. There is one crucial caveat here. The RSP is not without its internal tensions. There is a simmering power tussle between Balen Shah and RSP party chair Ravi Lamchand. Multiple party insiders have flagged the possibility of an internal rupture post-election. Whether Balen actually becomes Prime Minister or whether Lamichhane asserts his claim is a question that will be answered in the coming weeks. Watch this space. And now we get to the question that everyone in South Bloc in New Delhi is asking. What does an RSP government mean for India? What does it mean for China? And where does the tectonic shift in Kathmandu leave the India-Nepal China triangle? Let me give you the honest analytical picture, and it is nuanced. Balen Shah is nobody's puppet. He has been explicitly nationalist. Nepal first is his doctrine. In November 2025, in a now deleted midnight Facebook post, he unleashed profanity at every foreign power, America, India, China, and every domestic party simultaneously. One Kathmandu-based Western diplomat, speaking anonymously, described him as, quote, a bit of a loose cannon. He once displayed the map of Greater Nepal in his mayoral office, a map that controversially includes territories claimed by India. He spearheaded the banning of certain Indian films from Nepali screens. At the same time, and this is crucial, he also turned down an invitation to visit China after Beijing updated its national map, ignoring Nepali territorial sensitivities. He is, in other words, a proud nationalist who plays no favorites. The RSP's official foreign policy is rhetorically sophisticated. Their manifesto pledges to reposition Nepal from a, quote, buffer state between India and China into a, quote, vibrant bridge through trilateral economic partnerships with both neighbors. They call it economic diplomacy without strategic dependency. What does this mean in practice? The RSP's manifesto deliberately omitted BRI-linked infrastructure projects, a pointed signal to Beijing. There is no mention of expanding Chinese Belt and Road connectivity under RSP governance. China is not happy. From India's perspective, the calculus is this. RSP is infinitely preferable to an Oli-led CPN-UML government. Why? Because KP Oli, the man the RSP just routed, was the architect of Nepal's most aggressive China kill. During his last term as PM, he published a revised Nepali map that unilaterally claimed Indian territories, including Kalapani, Limpiadura, and Lipule. He accused India of spreading COVID. He was diplomatically toxic for New Delhi. RSP, by contrast, is a centrist, democratic, reform-minded party. India accounts for nearly 64% of Nepal's total trade. Bilateral trade in FY 2023-24 was approximately $7.8 billion. Structural economic dependency on India doesn't vanish with an election result. India remains Nepal's largest trade partner, the source of most remittances, and the transit route for the landlocked Himalayan nations' global access. However, and this is the cautionary note for New Delhi, India may be the biggest loser in terms of traditional political leverage. The RSP's youth base has a definite anti-India undercurrent. The old communication channels that New Delhi maintained through the Nepali Congress and Communist parties have been upended. India will need to forge a fresh relationship with an entirely new political generation. For China, this result is a strategic setback, but not a catastrophe. Chinese investment in Nepal's roads, hydropower, and connectivity is already embedded. The new government is unlikely to expel Chinese investment entirely. But RSP will almost certainly demand greater transparency on Chinese projects, particularly following serious corruption allegations over the BRI-funded Pokhara airport. The era of uncritical Chinese infrastructure expansion in Nepal appears to be over. And then there is Washington. Analysts across Kathmandu point to a remarkable fact. There is hardly a government left in South Asia that is not aligned, at least partially, with US interests. The RSP's Gen Z leadership is familiar to American institutions. The United States already committed an additional $50 million in MCC grant financing to Nepal in late 2025. Soft power is flowing westward, not eastward. To understand where Nepal is going, you have to understand what it is escaping from. KP Sharma Oli served as Nepal's Prime Minister in multiple stints, most recently until September 2025, when youth protests, triggered initially by a government ban on social media platforms, snowballed into a nationwide uprising that forced his resignation. The parliament was subsequently dissolved, and an interim government under former Chief Justice Sushila Karki, the first woman to ever lead a Nepali government, oversaw the transition to this election. Oli's legacy is a study in contradictions. On the one hand, he had a genuine support base, an articulate populist voice that appealed to communist cadres and nationalists. On the other hand, his governance record was marked by political instability. He dissolved parliament twice unconstitutionally. Rampant corruption, the diplomatic disaster of the revised territorial map, and a China tilt so overt that even Beijing reportedly grew frustrated by his ineffectiveness. His government coincided with the departure of hundreds of thousands of young Nepalis seeking employment abroad. Youth unemployment, corruption, infrastructure decay, and the broken promise of prosperity drove Nepal's generation into the streets in 2025. That anger is what the ballot papers captured in 2026. The RSP's pitch is fundamentally different from anything Nepal has seen before. Where legacy parties offered ideology, communist, socialist, centrist, RSP offers performance. Their manifesto commits to creating 1.2 million jobs, increasing per capita income, digitizing governance, and eliminating party-based unions from universities and bureaucracies. Balen Shah's record as Kathmandu mayor demonstrates that he can execute. He cleaned up a city that was a byword for dysfunction. He made municipal government transparent. He used data. He was result-oriented rather than ideology-driven. That is the promise he is now extending to the entire country. The analytical question is, can a city-level administrator scale up to national governance? Can a movement built on protest culture translate into durable policy making? Historically, across the world, from Emmanuel Macron in France to Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine, the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes not. Nepal's answer: so here is the bottom line for India's strategic community. Nepal has voted for something that has never existed before. A democratic, nationalist, performance-first government with no pre-existing loyalty to any foreign power. That is simultaneously an opportunity and a risk for New Delhi. The opportunity. RSP is not pro-China. It is not pro-VRI. It is not going to replicate Oli's territorial provocations. A stable, reform-focused Nepal on India's northern border, with a young government focused on job creation and economic growth, is fundamentally in India's interest. A prosperous Nepal is a buffer that does not require ideological management. The risk. India cannot take RSP for granted. The old playbook of cultivating the Nepali Congress or the Communist Bloc as New Delhi's interlocutors no longer applies. Balen Shah is unpredictable. His nationalist instincts cut both ways. India must engage immediately, respectfully, and on equal terms with this new political generation. The broader lesson? Across South Asia, from Bangladesh to Sri Lanka, from the Maldives to now Nepal, the era of durable Indian strategic dominance through legacy political proxies is over. The new generation demands that India earn its influence, not assume it. Nepal has voted. The Himalayas have spoken. And the question now is, who in New Delhi is listening? That's your deep dive on Nepal 2026, the election that changed everything. If you found this analysis valuable, hit subscribe, share this with anyone who cares about South Asian geopolitics, and drop your questions in the comments below. I read every single one. Until next time, stay curious, stay analytical. You are watching Delta Doctrines.